exactly where I want it to go, and it did. Okay, reset home. It zeroed out both measurements, raise my needle, and then I can move, and you see how that's counting up for me? It's measuring it. I'm going to come over here. Again, I'm going to drop my needle, and I actually want to lock my motor so things don't move. My width between these two corners is 24.23. I do need to put in my height, and the height is 3.03. Now I have that measurement, that area that I want to apply the border to. Now I need to decide how many repeats across. I have one repeat is 6, so let's round it down, 6 inches. My full width is 24, really easy math. I would say 4 repeats across and fit to area. That looks good, but I can change this. This is kind of the auditioning time. Maybe I want to check 3. As long as I don't leave this screen, I can keep auditioning new numbers in. Now that kind of stretched it with 3 repeats, and looking at my design on the quilt, I think personally that 4 repeats work better, and obviously 4 does go into 24, or 6 goes into 24 4 times, so I think we'll stick with the 4. Go back. Okay, I like that. That looks nice. Now the next step is to make sure that I've got the right rotation, because maybe I've loaded my quilt crooked a little bit. It wasn't quite straight across. So I want to make sure my rotation is right. So I'm going to raise my needle. I'm leaving this screen. Back, and I'm going to the rotate screen. This is, I want to use the 2-point rotation. So I want to find a point on the left side, a point on the right side, and then let the machine do the rotation, find that math. I don't have to figure the math out. So we're going to disable this. I'm going to move over to that same start point again, or the end point of the border, or of the corner, excuse me. And I want to drop this down again because I want to make sure it's exactly where that point is. Because I'm finding that angle. Start point, and then I'll raise it up. I'm going to move it back over. I'm going to drop my needle again, end point, and then hit end point, and now I want to hit the rotate button. So there was a slight rotation. That means that I didn't have my quilt squared up, even though my borders or my corners are exactly in the corner like I like them. That means my quilt is rotated just slightly. So this is good. This is a good thing to know. So it's rotated for me, and if I were to zoom in on this, let's push the zoom, you can see, let me push it really big so that and then we'll pan across. You can see how that has rotated down. You can see that extra space there. Let's move over to the other side. And it's up perfect here, but this has space. So you can see that there is a rotation on that. We're finished with our rotation, but I haven't positioned it yet. I only found a rotation. Even though I went over and found that point and that point, that was only a rotation. So now we need to go to Reposition Pattern. And we're going to use a function in here that makes it really simple to position. Different than the design than we used for the border or the corners, we're going to use this find start point, because that yellow dot is my start point. So if I bring it over to the end point on my corner and place my needle there, then push start point, it'll plop it right down on that point. So as I move this across, I don't need to worry about the screen this time. I'm worrying about the fabric. As I look down, I want to make sure my needle is right where I want it to be. Now I have a button that says Find Start Point. When I push that, you see where the crosshairs are here? That's where my needle is, but that's not where where I want my pattern to be. I want my pattern to be up there with those crosshairs. Find start point, voila, it happened. It's positioned. Now, we know it's right here, but what about this side over here? We're going to zoom in on it, do our follow. We're going to follow it across, watching as I go to make sure that everything is positioned correctly. I like the positioning, and most important, that this end point here lands right on that end point here. Now, a couple of things that we want to watch for as we're quilting this is maybe things weren't quite straight along here, and maybe we wanted to straighten that out. We could take some quilt batting, some batting like this, and place it under here. And as I place this, as I place my hands under here, you can see this line shift. So if I place some quilt batting under there, it would totally shift that. And sometimes you want to straighten out your quilts that maybe you're piecing or that you're quilting for others that maybe haven't been pieced correctly, and you can straighten them out on the frame by placing batting here or placing batting up under here, and it just makes that straight across. Use your horizontal channel lock to run across it to make sure things run straight across the quilt. Okay, I'm ready to start quilting. Everything's been rotated, positioned, resized, repeated. We're ready to go. I'm ready to start quilting, so we'll press the Done button. We'll go to Run Quilt, and we'll start quilting. I have my tie-offs checked, my pull-up, my stitching, and I like the settings that I have, so we're ready to start. The machine will now move. I don't have to move the machine. It knows where to go. It will move over to my start point. Bring up my bobbin thread, move aside. I'm ready to go. I like to hold my threads here so that it doesn't pull them under. Do my tie off. Clip my thread. I didn't put my paws on because I knew that I would not be stitching in the area, so I didn't need to worry. Now, if I feel like maybe I didn't quite get this correct or my fabric has shifted a little bit, I can actually take my hands and do a little manipulating. So especially when I get over to this side, and if I feel like maybe I'm not gonna match it up like I should, I'm gonna slow my speed down, and then I can use my hands to manipulate that last few stitches. Okay, I want to go up to my viewer box and change my speed to actually slow. You're going to see now it's just really going to creep along in this last part. But I want to make sure as it comes to this last point that if I have to do any manipulating, if I didn't make it work, then I can use my hands to do the manipulating. But we should have that almost right, should be right dead on. Coming up to my last part. Oh, perfect. It'll do a tie off, finished, and we've quilted our border. Now, let's disable the motors. Bring it down here. Move that aside and trim our threads. Doesn't that look nice? I've finished my top corner and borders, and now what I will do is I will advance my quilt. I will quilt through the body of my quilt, leaving these sides unquilted. I will stitch in the ditch and stabilize the sides, and as I advance to the bottom of the quilt, and I can show you here, as I advance to the bottom, I will have this now to quilt. So I will quilt my corner again, my border, and quilt this. And remember as you do that, that you want to mirror this so that it matches that. Then I have all of the body quilted, I have the bottom, the top, all that's left is this part. And I then personally like to take my quilt off of the leaders, off of the frame, turn it, repin it, and then I have this much to quilt on the top and then to the bottom. And then my quilt is finished. I hope this helps you to feel more confident in placing your corners and your borders on your quilt.